G'day legends, it's Jai that Aussie metal guy here. Before we get stuck into another great interview brought to you by Crannk.com and thatmetalstation.com, don't forget to hit the like and subscribe, and that way you can keep up to date with all the best music and interviews from all over the world. Hey, how you all going? It's Jai, that Aussie metal guy here with Crannk.com and with thatmetalstation.com. So no matter where you are in the world today, tonight, I'm getting to have a chat with Brad Cox. For me, it's an absolute pleasure. Brad's in American Terror. I did chat with him back in 2019 of their first album, Influencer, which was started out originally as a studio project. Weren't sure if you want to go through again. Man, really, really cool. Really great to chat with you.
Yeah, man, it's nice to be back. It's always good to catch up and see a familiar face for sure.
Yeah, dude, I know it's been a crazy couple of years, man. I really, really dug that Influencer. And for me, this was one of the conversations that stuck with me, you know. So when this came out, this album was coming out, it was something I really wanted to get in contact with you again and talk about how things have been for you the last couple of years, because I know it's been crazy, but you've also had some really cool things that have come up, i.e. you've done a lot of music producing stuff, mixing, mastering, and you've also done those remixes as well off the Influencer album, which I thought were dope as fuck, man. Old school rap to it as well.
Awesome, man. Yeah, it's been a little crazy for sure. You know, it's with the whole pandemic and everything that was going on, like I didn't want to slow down. I didn't want to stop what I was doing. Life threw me some curveballs for sure. You know, me being a big animal guy, dog with cancer, had to put a dog down yesterday, which was not fun. You know, but it's one of those things that I just dive myself into work and try to find positive things and just keep moving on. So yeah, when, you know, after Influencer came out, we tried to book tours, we tried to do things. And then with the whole pandemic, we couldn't book anything. And every booking company that we talked to was, you know, once things started picking back up, we ran into the problem that bands that canceled their tours, bands still already had tours booked moving forward. So then bands were just piggybacking on each other's tours. And so kind of the new guys got kind of pushed to the side. And so we just kind of laid low and was like, well, screw it. Let's just start making another record. And that's kind of what we focused on. And that's what just came out. We'd finished the bulk of the record about a year ago, and I just got really busy producing other artists and mixing for other bands and stuff like that. And, you know, we were a little discouraged with the whole not being able to play shows and touring stuff. And, you know, so it just kind of got pushed to the back burner. And then finally I was just like, you know what, there's not going to be any right time to try to put this out, and let's just put it out and move forward. And if people listen to it, they listen to it. If not, then they'll go back and listen to it years from now. So it was just one of those things. Let's just get it done, you know?
Yeah, well, the latest album, Where We Are, is an absolute ripper. Like the first one, you've expanded on this, man. So many different genres and styles, which I will get into, man. But I do want to talk about, because I didn't get to chat with you about this, but when you had Sticky Fingaz do the Judgement one, but I also want to talk about Krizz Kaliko and She's a Bitch, man. I really, really dug those tracks. Tell me about doing those ones and the decision to add the rap in there as well, because I know you're always into that. We did talk about it a bit in the first one. So can you tell me a little bit about working with those artists and picking those tracks and remixing them?
Yeah, so it was, you know, the first remix was the Sticky Fingaz one with Judgement. And I have always been a big rap fan. And, you know, I grew up on hip hop, and Onyx was such a huge influence of mine just because they were so edgy and so heavy and all that kind of stuff. And, you know, through my career, you know, I've always been mixing and producing, and I've been fortunate enough to work with a lot of great producers and great artists, and kind of had these connections. And so I just kind of went through some channels and got in touch with Sticky Fingaz, because he was just always dope as shit to me. He was like heavy metal, you know, but rap, you know? And I just loved his attitude. And I was just like, man, like he would just be fucking perfect. And you go back to like the Biohazard stuff that, you know, they did with Onyx, and it was just, it seemed like a right fit. And it was funny because when it was done, I actually, I've known Evan from Biohazard for years, and I actually sent him the track, and I was like, yo, man, check this out. And he was like, holy shit, it's like a flashback to like Biohazard, you know? And the Slam days and Judgment Night. That's what he said. It totally reminded him of was the Judgment Night soundtrack. But you know, and that's what I was going for. It's like I wasn't trying to like do something new and do something exciting. I wanted to go back to my roots of shit that I loved, you know what I mean? And I didn't care if it sounded like that back then, because that's still, people still hear that Judgment Night soundtrack and they're like, fuck, this is dope. It like stood the test of time. So so anyways, yeah, so I got in touch with Sticky Fingaz. You know, he wanted me to send him the track and we talked it over and he was into it. And we actually kind of formed a little bit of a friendship from it too, which was cool. And yeah, so that was that. And then the other one, the She's a Bitch with Krizz Kaliko, I came across, I was trying to find somebody that was the right feature for that song. And I was initially picturing Sir Mix-a-Lot, and I just could not track him down. Like I kept talking to his manager and just nothing was like linking up and, you know, connecting. You know, Sir Mix-a-Lot always had something going on and it just kind of hindered everything. And I was like, fuck, who else would be good on this? And randomly, because I didn't even know who Krizz Kaliko was. And randomly, I was just listening to shit on Spotify and this song called Titties came up. And I was like, this is a straight up ripoff of Sir Mix-a-Lot, My Posse's on Broadway. And I was like, holy fuck, who is this guy? So I started going through his catalog. I was like, this guy is fucking dope. So I went through some channels and found him and connected with him. And he, you know, we had some conversations and he did it. And it turned out awesome. And then from there, he actually wanted me to start working on his records and mixing stuff for him. So I mixed like, you know, 4 or 5 of his singles with like T-Pain, Futuristic, and all this kind of stuff. And yeah, it was just kind of funny how all that shit worked out, you know?
Yeah, it must have been a lot of fun to be able to revisit those tracks and then add that old school spin on it with the hip hop and the old school hip hop as well. Can we talk about the new album, man? Where we are? What was it like making this one, dude? You know what I mean? When did you start making it?
Man, it was kind of it was really weird making this record because our guitar player, you know, his girlfriend's dad is very sick, having a lot of health issues, so he was very closed off and, you know, would not like leave during the whole pandemic thing because he did not want to take a chance of bringing something into the house. So we had to do pretty much the whole record remotely, which was very weird. So even when you look at like the single that we released, Legend, before this record, you know, I was the only one in the video. You know, so it was like I couldn't get people out of the house. So I was just like, fuck it, I'm just doing the videos myself. So and Skid Row was touring around that time too, so he couldn't come and do the videos. But yeah, so making this record was just a little different because it was all done remotely, as far as like all the guitar work and the writing process. I wrote the majority of the stuff on there, but Pat, the guitar player, he co-wrote 2 of the songs on there, but he would just basically send me a bunch of riffs and a bunch of ideas that he had. And God bless him, he is the most like, when he sends me demos and ideas, they sound like fucking records. Like every drum part is programmed perfectly. And I'm like, fuck, man, like, how do you even have the time to do this? You know, like for something that I almost felt guilty if I said no to something because he puts so much love and work into it. And he is such an amazing guitar player and has so many great ideas. But there was only just a few that I really connected with for this band and for this record, you know. And I even told him, I was like, man, you need to do a solo record, which he had went out years ago that had Michael Grace from Misfits on it and stuff like that. But I was just like, you need to do another solo record because these songs are really good and put them out there. But just 2 of them were the only ones that connected with me. So he laid those out. I wrote to those, and then the others I wrote myself, and I kind of demoed and threw it together and got Rob in the studio, drummer, and started laying it down. And Pat did all his tracks remotely, and sent them all to me, and I kind of reamped them at the studio. So some of the sounds I would use of his, and because he uses Kemper for all the nerdy guitar player people out there. He uses a Kemper, and I have a Kemper also, but I also have real amps at the studio. So I'd reamp some stuff.
Yep.
But yeah, so that part was done remotely. And then bass, last time we had Murphy from Sugar Ray on the first record. And during this time, he used the whole pandemic to start reflecting on his Sugar Ray thing. And he started writing a Sugar Ray book and all this kind of stuff. And he was just knee deep in projects like that. And he just was not turning around the bass fast enough that we needed it. So, which I totally understood, you know? So I just jumped in there and I did all the bass on the record. And yeah, it was just kind of like, let's just get it done, because I just did not want to sit around and wait and sit on it. And I was just itching to get it out, because there was so much shit that I was feeling during that pandemic, between all the personal shit in my life and just how I felt politically, the pandemic, everything was being swung, that I just wanted that out of me. You know what I mean? And it was always therapeutic for me to just really say what the fuck's on my mind, because it's like, you know, some of the shit you can't have conversations with people about, you know what I mean? I and, you know, so it's kind of like, well, you know, nobody can rebuttal me too much if I just put it all on a fucking record and make people sit on it and think about it for a minute, instead of just word vomiting whatever they might hear on the fucking news or something like that, you know, and actually think for themselves. And that's kind of what this whole record was about, is trying to get people to look at both sides of everything and actually come to a conclusion and think for themselves, instead of what the media and the politicians want us to think and want us to feel, you know?
That's exactly it. It's a very, how shall I say, angry album. You had a lot to say on it, but it's also an album that I feel doesn't go picking sides and kind of isolating one side or the other. It's like, hey, people, fucking think about it. We can't have a decent conversation anymore without one person going against the other. There's all these different sorts of attitude, the song there, and people have no self-control. You know what I mean? We're all fucked. We're all just a victim of the system. It's crazy, these tracks, you know, and you actually listen to them. You go, oh, listen to the name, and it's like, oh, you listen to the actual track and the meaning in the songs. Yes, you have a lot to say, and I can feel a lot of this, considering the last couple of years we've always had, but I also feel that you don't fucking isolate one side from the other, is the point that I'm making with the songwriting on this one.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, you know, because I don't want to push my own political agenda and my own beliefs on somebody, because to me, that's what makes the world go round, is difference of opinions and difference of feelings. But the problem is like, we stopped as a society talking about the difference of opinions and everything, and being like, that's okay to feel different than me, you know? And through those conversations is how things get solved and better ideas come to play, is hearing each other's side and understanding each other's perspective. And so, you know, in a way, that's just kind of how I feel like the government wants us to be right now, is they want us to be divided and they want us to be separated, because there's strength in numbers. And, you know, I always tell people, you look at the, you know, what happened here in America with the January 6th thing at the Capitol, the riot, the insurrection, and all that kind of stuff. And I'm like, how powerful would it be if it wasn't just the Donald Trump people there, and you had the Democrats there too, and everybody was joined forces together against the government? We would have overthrown the government that day, because there's strength in those numbers. And that's what they don't want to happen. It's safer to divide us.
Exactly. And I think it's one country where everyone just puts so much into politics. Over in Australia, we were watching this stuff, and I know a lot of Aussies were sitting here going, what the fuck? They put, all the politicians are full of shit, man. Like, I'm not taking no sides, Democrats, Republicans. Here in Australia, we know all the politicians are trying to fuck us. It's just to varying degrees of what they're fucking us at. So we go, this one's going to be nice to us. This one's going to be a little gentler than this one, but he's going to fuck us in the end. I can't believe people put so much into politics, and the whole not having a conversation and people just getting angry at each other. It's okay to have differences of opinion. It's okay to listen to different sorts of music. It's okay to have a bit of old school hip hop, some thrash, some rock, and all the different genres that you touch on with American Terror. You know what I mean? It must be a lot of fun making these music as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's as a band, you know, we are divided politically too. So And that's what I try to tell them. I'm like, look, we don't think the same, but we're in a band together making music together. And it's okay. Like, I don't have to think like them. And they don't have to think like me, because we're mature adults that can actually have conversations and understand that I have different needs than this person over here. And so I'm going to vote differently than that person. And it doesn't mean that I hate that person and I think their needs are shit. You know what I mean? It's just the way it is. And so, yeah, so in music stylistically too, yeah, it's the same way. Like, you don't have to just be into one thing, you know, like to me, life is about diversity, and people like, you know, people like options, people like diversity. And nowadays you feel like you're led to believe that nobody wants diversity and nobody wants whatever, unless it's like some extreme fucking whatever. I don't know. You have to watch everything you say now, everything, how you approach things. And it's exhausting. So now my excuse every time I say something fucked up, I go, oh, I'm sorry. I'm from the 80s and 90s where nothing was politically correct. Yeah. Forget it. It's like elderly people, when they say kooky shit that, you know, it's like they get a pass because they're just fucking old, you know? So that's the card that I play. I'm just like, whatever, you know, I'm not gay bashing. I just grew up in the fucking 80s and 90s.
Yeah, exactly. Can you tell me a little bit about the cover art, man? The cover art on this one as well is similar to the influencer one as well.
Yeah. So, I mean, basically I just wanted the cover art to, you know, show a little bit of what's going on nowadays and the divide and the conflict of everything, just like the opening intro to the record. You know, I wanted people to see that, you know, that there's a lot of fucked up shit going on and people feel passionately about it. And I don't want to, you know, take away from people's passion. Like, I love the passion behind all this, you know, and it's like, whether I agree with their agenda and the protesting or whatever, like whatever they're protesting or what they're fighting for, it doesn't matter. It's nice to see people be passionate about something. Now, if they could use that same level of passion to being open-minded to other things and being passionate of actually fixing things for everybody and not just one social issue, and realize there's fundamental issues. And I guess that's the thing that just kind of drives me nuts, is like, everything is such on the surface. And I feel like the government and everybody tries to distract us with these social issues. Yep. So they distract from the core of the fucking, you know what I mean? So it's like, here's something shiny for you to focus on. Now we're going to divert your attention from what's really going on over here. And we fall for it. And that's what drives me crazy. So when it came to the front cover of the record, I wanted to put on there some of the things that I felt were a distraction from the real thing and what's hiding the real thing that's going on behind closed doors, you know?
I do got to also mention the vinyl for Influencer. I did spot that the other day, man. You put that on vinyl, eh, dude?
Yes, we did do a vinyl release.
Yeah, what was that like? You know, coming back and getting some vinyl. I suppose you put them out ages ago, and then like the rest of the world, it was all delayed as well, or?
It was super delayed. It took months. Yeah, it took months, but it was stoked to get it back. And we also did cassettes. And we did not release the cassettes because the cassettes actually turned out like shit. We went with, don't even get me started on that. But I might actually, we've been talking about doing a limited edition run of the cassettes of me hand numbering them and doing personal dubbing of how I wanted the cassette to sound. Because I actually did do a dub of the cassette from my master instead of going from the factory. Yeah. And it sounded freaking great.
Maybe put little bits of sticky tape on the end of it too on each one, dude. You know, add that old school
in there
when
and
you do
tape
that to
it.
Your parents, and that's like speaking to kid of the 80s and 90s. That was my grabbing music off the radio, getting mum's old tapes, putting a little bit of sticky tape on it, and
exactly
it the radio.
So that's what I was talking about doing. It make it like a freaking home tape with the, you know, because the cover and everything turned out great. It was just that their dubbing was terrible. I don't know what the hell went wrong. But, you know, I went back and forth with the company and they sent me a few different test tapes and they all sounded like shit. And I'm like, how on my shitty little tape recorder can I get a clean dub and you can't? It just, and me being an audio guy and a producer and a mixer, I give a shit, you know what I mean? And I I don't know. So it's just me being crazy. So we were talking about doing a limited edition, just hand numbered run of me actually sitting here for that 45 minutes of dubbing each tape.
I actually got a few tape cassettes and I haven't played them. I've just been grabbing them because of that generation. For some reason, I feel like, I got to get a heap of tape cassettes because the bands are getting rid of them. I grab them at shows. I've had bands send me a few, and I'm like building up a nice little collection of tape cassettes now, which is.
Yeah, I got my tape deck right here, and I got Korn's first album right here.
Oh, nice, dude! I'm so gonna have to track down a tape deck. I got a during the COVID lockdown, I went and got a record player and bloody vinyl, and started a vinyl obsession as well. So it's really, really cool to finally start getting a whole heap of vinyl. Brad, look, I'm gonna get you to go through, pick a few tracks off the album for me, man. I can play a max of 3 tracks, man. Go through, pick out 3 tracks for me, and a little bit about each track you pick as you pick them.
Take Out a Bully is one that I actually love. That was the thing I love about that song was, it's my fucked up mind, but when I was in school, I was bullied, I was picked on and shit for being different. And, I never thought about pulling a fucking school shooting or anything like that. It was just more fun to there was one instance, because I played baseball when I was in high school. And there was one instance, there was this new guy, he came to our school, he was, a football player and all this kind of shit. And I was, even though I was a baseball player, I still had pink fucking hair. I wore leather pants, fucking Poison shirts and shit like that. And everyone thought I was fucking gay, whatever, called me every name in the book. And anyways, one day I was walking down the hall and everybody knew I was full of piss and vinegar. And this one jock kept fucking picking on me in the hallway. He kept pulling my hair, kicking me, pushing me. And I was like, yo, man, you might want to back off. And then I heard his friends that were on the football team yo, dude, you might want to leave him alone. And they're like, oh, what the fuck is this pussy gonna do? And I just turned around and just slammed him up against the wall, grabbed him by the throat, and he couldn't do shit. He was just shocked. And he had to live with that humiliation in front of all his boys that tried to warn him that I was going to kick his ass. You know what I mean? And so when I wrote the song with all the school shootings and shit going on, I'm like, what fucking fun is that? What does that solve? Because you're just putting them out of their fucking misery. And it's a lot of people that had nothing to do with anything either. So to me, it was just better to take on a bully directly and kick his fucking ass and humiliate him, because the humiliation that he is going to feel of getting his ass kicked is going to stick with him the rest of his life and teach him a lesson. And it's going to have a mental effect on him. By putting them out of their misery, you're doing them a favor at that point. You know what I mean? And so to me, there was more power in standing your ground and showing these people, hey, I can fight you. I can kick your ass. Let's go. Let's go toe to toe. You know what I mean? And so that's why this song was important to me, was because it was just the ultimate, don't be a pussy. Don't get a gun. Don't hide behind that. Build self-respect for yourself and strength, and stand up to these people and give them an old school ass kicking that their friends are going to ridicule them for the rest of their life by getting their ass kicked by the freak. You know what I mean? So that was the whole thing behind that.
The Take Out a Bully. That's all we've got over here in Australia. That's all we can do is just, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
take out a few bullies, mate. Old-fashioned ass kicking, mate. You know what I mean? Take them out the back with the drop bears. They'll be right.
Right. I mean, that was the great thing of at school. It was there's always okay, at 3 o'clock after school, we're going to meet in this neighborhood and these two people are going to fight. And that was what you looked forward to, is the fucking fights, But so it was just that kind of thing. It's just stop being a pussy. Let them deal with that torment and the misery and the mental mind fuck of that.
It was a good song. It felt like a big fuck you to all the bullies in society, from the big ones right down to the little ones. Exactly. It was a killer track, man.
Yeah, so that one, Self-Control, is another one of mine, and the whole idea behind that one. It was funny because I wrote that before the whole January 6th insurrection thing, but it was basically a song written about just having enough and storming into fucking our government and Congress and, you know, put a gun to their head, and you know, just basically taking control, you know, and that it's like, you've pushed us to this breaking point by being selfish assholes and only pushing your agenda, your own bullshit. And it's basically the story of someone just going postal and snapping, which fucking people are doing, you know what I mean? And so it's, you know, not to say that's the right thing to do. I'm not saying that at all. I'm not saying go and shoot your fucking congressman or do anything like that, but it's more of a message to, you know, the politicians of like, stop dicking with our lives, stop fucking with us, because shit will happen like January 6th. And so it was kind of crazy that happened. And I'd already written the song. I'm like, this is exactly what my mindset was. It's just like, we've had enough, you know, like we're supposed to live in a free country and you're putting all these mandates on us, forcing vaccines on us, forcing shit. And it's like, you know, regardless of how you feel, that is not the society and the country that we, you know, grew, you know, lived in and formed. And I just felt like there was levels of contradiction of things that it's like, oh, it's okay to, you know, have an abortion. You can tell me what to do, but you know, I can't tell you that I don't want to have a vaccine in me, you know? So it's that contradiction of like bullshit of like, it's your body, your choice when it wants to be. And people are fed up with the hypocrisy and the bullshit and both sides lying to us. And that if you don't watch it, shit is going to happen like that. And people will retaliate. And
until governments, like a quick tangent, until government's agendas stop making money off of the backs of people, it's just going to be the way, whichever way we go. So you know what I mean?
Yeah. It's crazy because all they have to do is tell the narrative of what they want you to believe and get it on the news, and all of a sudden that must be the truth. You know what I mean? And so so that's basically what that song was about. It was just kind of a wake up call that it's like, you better watch out because people will fucking finally see what's going on and see the puppeteer. And
well, there's so many influences on this album for your songwriting, just what's going on in the last couple of years, you know, because I did talk to someone about musicians. He's like, man, I feel sometimes about having a political agenda. And I'm like, no, man, musicians are the one people and should be able to have a political agenda. We've done it all through people who've been playing music. They've been able to say their point of view and express it through music as well. You know what I mean? To have that influence and that say through music.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's, you know, it's like, it's happening all the time in freaking movies. I mean, like kids cartoons, like let's slip in the transgender kid and let's at the end of this movie show a global warming scene and like make kids think that, you know, like to think about global warming and all this kind of shit. It's just like, you're pushing political agendas in kids movies. Like that shit didn't happen with us growing up. You know what I mean? Like,
it's a good thing Australia's not so into the politics, man. It must be, dude, it must be good when you get out of a country sometimes and not have to fucking put up with that shit.
Crazy, man.
It's like Twilight Zone sometimes, must be.
Yeah, it's just like the level of brainwashing that goes on. And I mean, so it's like for a musician to not be able to do that is kind of fucked up. And you know, I don't know. Like I said, I don't want to push any side, period. I just want people to think for themselves, and I want people to be unified again. I don't like this tension of like, fuck you, like that. You know, I believe in community, you know, and I'm a big advocate for community and everybody being one, because at some point in our life, we're going to need each other to help each other. And it shouldn't come down to, well, I'm a Republican, I'm a fucking Democrat. Well, don't help me, I'm dying, but I don't want a Democrat to come help me. Like, really? Like, just fucking stupid shit like that. So anyways, so
let's get on the next track, Brad.
Yeah, so the next track, I would say probably End of America. I'm torn between that and Attitude, but End of America, I really liked that one. Because it is kind of what I felt was going on during the whole pandemic and the Black Lives Matters and the defund the police and people burning shit and, you know, killing cops and all this kind of shit, where it's like, there's bad seeds on both sides. You know what I mean? Like there's bad cops, but there's some fucking great cops. And, all these, it's funny because all these people are like, defund the police. But the senators that are pushing the defund the police have their own private securities that carry guns. So it's the hypocrisy again. So it just kind of felt like America it felt like it was the end of America, because it was just like nothing made sense anymore. And it just became this angry, everybody's divided society. And then, like in the bridge of the songs, it's talking about like the history books and all that kind of shit. And it's like, you're brainwashed from an early age too. And it's like, so some of these people, you can't help to, you can't get mad at them for how they think, because they were kind of subliminally brainwashed from their textbooks and by their teachers. And
and storybooks.
So it's like, yeah. So it goes, but it goes back to, that was the importance of this record, was not a political, take my side, take this side. It was think for your fucking self. Like, just because someone's black doesn't mean they're going to rob you. Just because someone's a fucking cop doesn't mean they're going to shoot you. Just because, you know what I mean? Like, just because someone's a Republican doesn't mean they're a money hungry, screw you, whatever. They don't care about you. Just because they're a Democrat doesn't mean they want you to go throw on a dress and, become a woman all of a sudden, you're your man. That's not what it is. You know what I mean? And that's what they make it seem to believe. It's this extremism. And it's like there is a middle, and we've lived in the middle for a long time. And it just takes open conversations and not anger of yelling at each other and closed-mindedness that this is going to solve. And you'll find that people are very accepting of other people and other people's feelings when they're rationally explained. But so that was the whole thing. It's just like, people think for yourselves and have an open conversation and look at what's really going on, so you can educate yourself to have an open and honest conversation with people, because it's not worth it losing friends and all this kind of stuff and family members over politics and how you feel about shit. It's not worth it. You got to listen and talk.
Yeah, that's it. Going through, like the last couple of years that we've gone through, you and I, mate, it definitely hones at home, man. Like, fuck, man, chill the fuck out. It's just politics, dude. There's a lot more going on in the world. You can have a view, I can have a few. Let's all just kick back and crank some American Terror where we are. It's a ripping album, man, and just kind of ride that line together. Brad, this has been an absolute pleasure. Everybody go out, grab Where We Are. It came out 8th of July. Brad, any last words, shout outs, thank yous you'd like to add in there, my friend?
Man, I would like to thank you for having me back. And I'd like to thank Keith for putting this whole thing together again. Effective Sales PR. He's awesome. But I'd like to thank my band members and all the fans that keep this whole thing alive. And, this is like a therapy outlet for me and a passion band, and not trying to get rich off of it. So, I'm just thankful for everybody that wants to listen, and it really means a lot. But we've already started working on the next record and writing for it. We're going to be tracking it. We were supposed to actually start the middle of August, but I'm in the middle of a couple other records that I'm doing for other people, and I had to delay it. So we're going to start tracking in September, and this one's going to be even heavier and nastier, and I'm excited. So
also quick mention before we go, dude, I did go check out that Moonshine Bandits track, Like 'Em Wild. You mixed, mastered, produced on that as well. Brad does a hell of a lot of stuff like that, guys, also through Black Paw Studios as well. Brad, thanks very much, my friend. Have a lovely evening.
Awesome. Hey, thank you so much, man.
Cheers, brother.
Bye.